Okay, and we're back here on Xtreme Talk. Tonight's episode, we're going to be interviewing Edgar Friendly, or Ghosted Edgar Friendly, as he's known on TikTok. How you doing today, Edgar?
I'm doing all right. I had to become a ghost because my old account kind of died. so so I had to become the ghost of Edgar Friendly,
Because
unfortunately.
okay, that makes sense. Okay, and what's up with the presidential Edgar Friendly?
I just thought it was funny. El
Oh,
Presidente. I just think the term El Presidente just happened to be funny. So I just, it's just my style, sense of humor, you know, type of thing. I'm very um I'm kind of a little on the weird side as far as humor goes. That's part of, I think that has to do with my autism. It seems a lot of people really have a quirky sense of humor when they have autism. So I think that comes out that it's very um, unusual things make us laugh. I think that tends to um, resonate with everybody. That's the thing that we all have in common. Who, even though there's a spectrum of of autism, and everybody has their little quirks, I think just unusual sense of humor and quirky, unusual things make us all laugh.
yeah.
Um, so I, I think that's definitely I wanted to have this um, kind of quirky, weird thing that not a lot of uh, people would really put. People would normally put, president, but uh, I I just decided to put El Presidente.
El
Um,
Presidente. Okay, it makes sense now. I I didn't know if it was an inside joke or something like that. But so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who you are? Who is Edgar?
okay. Well, like I said, I have autism, and that really um, was very insightful after the fact. I was not diagnosed until my early 30s. And, I knew I had a learning disability. I don't like to call it a disability at all. That always made me feel like n- neurotypical, as it's usually referred to in the autism community. Uh, People who aren't man, that type of thing. And, growing up, I was teased a lot because, one reason or another, I didn't really fit in, didn't really, I really wasn't understood even by my own mother. Um, for, for the longest time, nobody really understood why I was the way I was and all this. And then, my parents, about fifth grade, pulled me out of school because the bullying got so bad. And from fifth grade on, I was homeschooled. So I was really in that pioneer point of homeschooling back before everything was really put together, and that everybody was trying to figure out um, how everything really worked and how everything was going to be um, going as far as get-togethers and all that. And there were a lot of groups that did get together, but unfortunately, it was my brother, myself, and then a neighbor kid, Sean, down the street.
Oh,
And so this kind of led into being very fortunate that my grandmother, who she is, she was just about the most godly woman, and still to this day, doing Bible study, like in-depth Bible study, um, and coming over and having that as another um, another aspect in my schooling. So she had a Hebrew study Bible. We went in depth talking about context and all this. So that's kind of where I really um, learned to find that context biblically is very important.
Yes.
So, I would find that I would get very focused on subjects and things like that, and I was able to do that really at a better level and do better homeschooling. And like I said, I did not learn that I was autistic until my early 30s, and I had to do that on my own. And the weird thing is, my mother uh, had watched a program and noticed a lot of the things that, um, personality wise, were clicking, just going down a checklist and telling me maybe I should go and see if that's valid. And so I went and I paid money to get evaluated, and sure enough, that clicked, and everything made sense in my life. It was like a puzzle piece just kind of fitting into place. And I don't know how many times when I talk to people, there's a few people every now and then who go, "Well, wasn't that like devastating to find out that you're autistic?" And I'm like, "No, because I lived with it my entire life. Knowing why I am the way I am, why I think the way I think, the way I work, and knowing what to watch out for, um, and knowing that um, I can really be myself, right? Because one thing about autism is masking. I don't know if you know a lot about masking and all that. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. So basically, for a lot of people in the autism community, what winds up happening is uh, people want to fit in. Obviously, everybody wants to fit in, and we pick on sides of autism is not picking up on social cues and things like that. So, in order to kind of uh, be around people and not have them be completely uncomfortable, there's a thing that people with autism do, which is masking, which means you pretty much put on a mask, you have to become an actor, right? Because you want people to want to be around you. You don't want to be that awkward guy that like nobody wants to be around, right? And that's something that when I was a kid, um I never really mastered because nobody wanted to be around me. Um and let me tell you this. I went to youth group and it was very clicky, and it
They
was
are.
very upsetting to me because I would be in the group and around people, but I wouldn't be like with them. Um and it was kind of unfortunate because it got to be the point that I knew I wasn't part of the group, because I would go to youth group and they would be talking about going to a movie or, whatever, going out to eat or doing, whatever have you.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be like, oh, that movie was great, or that food was really great. And I'd be like, well, why didn't you call me? Like, I would have come. And they're like, well, it was a spur of the moment thing. Okay.
Wow.
So it's a spur of the moment thing, and yet you were all together. You didn't bother to call me to hang out at all. I mean, that was hurtful. That was like really hurtful. Um and I unfortunately I see a lot of people who unfortunately take things, that the trauma, right, that they've experienced in the church, and blame it on God,
Yes.
right? And that's unfortunate to me. Um, that I've never had that mindset. I've been hurt by plenty of people in the church, plenty of people, but I never thought like, oh, God's to blame for this, because people are people. People aren't God. People aren't perfect. you know, I never made sense of that aspect of thinking. I guess my mindset was always, you know, um, if you are mad at God for something that people in the church do, your faith is in man and not God.
Exactly.
Because that's something that I guess it's we people with autism has very analytical thinking. So I very much compartmentalize in my head and think about it analytically, about what makes sense and what's logical in that aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same reason why I'm it's the same reason why I'm not atheist, right? Um, because to me, I look at our DNA, I look at the very foundation of how our bodies work, the information, the data. There's literal data stored, right? There's blueprints in all DNA and the very like foundation of carbon, and for everything to work, the ratio of acid to like the acid proteins
Mm-hmm.
to the just everything has to be the perfect ratio for it to even anything to click. And I made a video on TikTok not long ago. There was a robot goat, right, that they made.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how cool it is that these robots exist, right?
Yeah.
And these things don't fall over when you push them, and they've figured out how to make everything function. And I'm like thinking to myself, how absurd would it be if you went around and looked at that thing and said that thing put itself together, right? It assembled itself.
Good point.
That's the same thing that like atheists go out of their way to look at the obvious and deny that somebody created everything. It would be absurd to be like, well, you know that that robot put itself together. Like, it's the same thing with the complexity of our world, our universe, the way that everything clicks together, and the very blueprint. Um, you know, I've seen it time and time again where scientists take a look, right? The closer they get to looking at everything, the harder it is to deny that we are created. Everything is created. The very fact that uh, the way that the universe came into being and the rate of expansion, that this is the kind of thing, and unfortunately it's one of the downsides too of autism, is I tend to ramble. I get on something and I start. So that's part that's part of who I am, though, and God created me in this way, and I realize that. It's something that comes to term. Like I said, it was such a relief to understand and to be analyzed and confirmed to be autistic,
It's not.
because my mom look.
I was gonna say it.
Go
It
ahead.
gave you a title to categorize what you are. Instead of it being a judgment on you, you had a title now saying,
Yeah. It makes you understand. It's a deeper understanding, getting that aspect of um knowing that God made me a specific way, right? Instead of not understanding, like, why am I like this? And I've seen that with a lot of people. People have their little quirks, people have things about them, and they turn around, they go, why am I like this? You know, and it really causes them to suffer mentally, because they don't know the why, they do the things they do, you know, why they are the way they are. And the amazing thing, I think, to me, is after I was diagnosed and my mother saw the diagnosis, um, and read the report and everything, she looked me straight in the eye. And remember, I was not diagnosed till my early 30s. She looked me straight in the eye and said, I have misunderstood you for all these years. My own mother, for more than 30 years, did not understand me, why I was the way I was, why I did certain things, you know. And thinking back, um, God has brought me a very long way to um, reconciling um, how, just everything, and smoothing out a lot of the things that were imperfections. And that's not to say by any means that I am perfect. I've still got a long way to go
yeah,
in a lot of things. Um, and that is a realization I think a lot of people need to assess in their life, is realizing, instead of looking, right, at your imperfections now, see how far you've come from where you were before. And then look at where you are now and realize that you you've maybe come a long way, a lot further than what you may have realized, because a lot of it is just baby steps to kind of shaving off those little rough pieces and things like that. And realizing that maybe all your imperfections now aren't as far away, right? That you can be like, okay, I can take this a step at a time and work things out in my life, right?
Yeah.
Because God will do that. And he smooths out little bits and edges. Because when I was young, I had a temper. I was I was not at all very chill as I am now, and resigning myself to the fact that um, that I don't need to go. I mean, I go at it when I need to go at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Yes, I do.
I go hard when I need to go hard. But I had to realize that God is the one who's going to be handling everything. I can only go so far as telling the truth, preaching the truth, and from there, that takes the pressure off. Because I know for me and a lot of other people that I see constantly, and that's another part of aspect of the autism in my life. I am um very aware of other people. And that's why other vices, people, I looked at other people when I was younger and I saw the effect that it had on them and their family. And so I'm like, I don't want to be like that. I have alcoholics in my family that, it's very hard. Um, and my brother, my youngest brother, he's had problems with drug use. And it's unfortunate, you know. So one of the things that I I am very well aware of is looking at how other people um, behave and their personalities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So coming to the realization, looking at other people and seeing other people having this weight as well, because this was a problem for me for a long time, is the need, feeling the need, right? The need to absolute prove that I am right instead of putting it in perspective that it's not about me, right? That takes up so much weight when you finally abandon that it's not about you, that it's not about you being right or wrong, it's not about any of that. If you're telling the truth, if you're preaching the gospel and you're preaching the truth, letting that go and being and knowing that that's the truth and it's not on you, because there are some people that will never listen, and realizing that not everybody is going to come to the gospel, not everybody is going to come to Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that that weight isn't on you, right?
Yeah.
I dealt with that a long time of, and every now and then I still slip up and be like, I want to still, like, I have to be right, like, because that's the thing is, like, I have this information, I know I'm right, and I have to remind myself it's not about me. I have to let my ego go. I have to let my flesh go. And that is very hard to do. And I see that in a lot of people, you know. I see that way too often of people not letting it go and weighing on them so hard, um, because that I don't think they're aware or thinking about it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's really been a journey, and God is still kind of chipping away to get to the elephant, so to speak. Uh, as Michelangelo, there was the whole thing with that them asking Michelangelo like how he does what he does, and Like, God knows there's an elephant there. So all he has to do is chip away everything that's not an elephant.
I love that story.
So the same thing goes with God. God chips away everything that's not him.
Yep.
And we have to let it happen.
That's a very good analogy.
And you have to pray. I pray every time. This is always my prayer, because I know I can't do it. There's only so much I can do. And, our flesh is a trap, and I fall into those traps, and I'm like, oh man, like how could I let this happen? Type of thing, and being like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta really stop that. I gotta be aware of that. That's not him. Thing that we need is, if we want to look like Christ, right? We have to chip away everything that is not Christ.
Yes, that is totally
So,
correct.
yeah.
And I love that analogy. When you told it the other day on TikTok and one of the lives, I was like, I like that. That is a great analogy. After this break, we'll come back and we'll find out a little more about Edgar. And we're back here on Xtreme Talk, Kyle St.Andrews. Xtreme Talk is on iHeartRadio. You go to iHeart.com under podcast and enjoy the after Xtreme Talk at about. See you there. Hey, and we're back. All right. You were bringing up earlier about people being mad at God. And because of what people do in church, they quit to go into church and they abandon the body of Christ or the bride of Christ because of how people act in church. What's your opinion? Better yet, what's your opinion on how can we fix the problem of people leaving church because of how people act in church?
Well, I think that's really a heart problem. Even in my own church now, there's not a lot of people that I actually know, or that I haven't even gotten to know. And a lot of people don't really talk. If I go to church, a lot of people don't talk to me. Everybody's kind of wanting to do their own thing after church and things like that. And really getting to know people is, I think, the first step, and understanding that we are all different, and kind of accepting people for everything that they are and aren't, right? Let me give you an example of this is probably the best testimony I can give. A friend of mine, a very good friend, that I got to know very well. He actually came to my old church when I lived in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And he came high.
Oh.
He came high, okay, with a bag of drugs.
Ooh.
To church. Okay. He sat in the back. God delivered him. Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
And he, started coming. Now, for a long time, okay, he still smoked.
Yeah.
He still, did his thing. And for me, I really wanted to tell him to stop in my flesh. But God told me, just be his friend. Okay? Just be his friend. And sometimes living out, right? Living out our testimony is just as strong as telling somebody that they need to stop this or that. There needs to be grace, especially for new Christians. Okay.
Yes, it does.
Now, this guy, before I knew it, he came to the conclusion because God convicted him. Okay. God convicted him. I didn't have to say anything. I just treated him like a friend, and I came by him, and I, just tried my best to just walk alongside him. Okay. He looked at me one day that we were hanging out. He said, I came to the realization that drugs were too much in my life. And if I wanted God, if I wanted to put God first, I had to put away the drugs. And he stopped on his own because God convicted him. Now, I didn't do anything.
No.
I didn't tell him to stop.
That's God.
That was all conviction from God. And, sometimes I think a lot of people feel that way. And I can't remember what scripture it is in particular, that there was a grace period. I think it was I want to say the Corinthians, or not the, or the, it was one of the letters that that Paul wrote, saying, people can come in, and there can be a grace period for people, but they do need to change, right?
They do.
But there's a grace period in that. There's too many people thinking that they're holier than thou, and realizing that the church is for sinners. It's a hospital. It's
you.
a hospital, and we all need a hospital. Doesn't matter if you've been walking with Christ for how many years, you still need crutches, right? Like, it's kind of funny that people, oh, Christianity's crutch. Yeah, because I need crutches. I'm not perfect. I'm a broken person.
Exactly. And
yes, of course.
The only difference between...
Of course it's a crutch.
Yes, it is. The only difference between the sinners outside the church and the people inside the church, or there's saved sinners inside the church, they're still sinners.
Yeah.
And once we realize that's the only difference is Christ, we're no better than them.
And it kind of really irritates me too. There seems to be this, at least with a lot of atheists, who have turned, right, that there's too many hypocrites.
Yeah,
in
there is. There is.
And like I said before, if your whole deal is that you blame God for something people do, your faith is in man. It's very misplaced in mankind.
It is.
And I never trust mankind.
No, you shouldn't.
So I think we need to get past this mindset that we are, we're better in some way. I think a lot of people have that mindset. You go to a church and there's way too many people trying too hard, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They try way too hard to look like they are holy and look like that, I think the church, especially the American church, needs to realize we are broken, where we need to come alongside other people, right? Not, we've talked about this now. We've talked about it. There's not enough discipleship going on.
There's not.
in
There's
the church. There's not enough discipleship. People are not walking alongside it. Discipleship doesn't just mean, like trying to guide people in the right direction. That's part of it. But walking alongside people, iron sharpens iron. We walk together. We walk together as a body. This is how people get better. There's one of my favorite scriptures. I can't remember. I always have a hard time. I know it's there, but I don't know what particular scriptures they are. But talking about how do not offer the best seat to rich people because they look nicer, and don't tell people, hey, you over there, you're not dressed as nice, so you could sit on the floor. You know that I think there's too much of outward looking, as it were. uh People looking at somebody and being like, well, that person should be the face of, it's almost like taking a corporate approach of what looks best, rather than having a quote unquote face of the church, rather than you know
hmm
taking it from a side by side, like I said, taking somebody and walking side by side with them. um, and I think that's the biggest tripping point of the church. People get tripped up and things like that, and so people get left out. I know I got left out a lot, and that was very hurtful. Um, feeling like I was with the group but not part of the group.
exactly.
And I was fortunate that there were a lot of leaders, who helped um guide me um within the youth group, right? There were a few leaders here and there, but as far as like other youth, I think that was just mainly folly of, when you're young, I think you tend to fall into that group mindset. um that's high school,
Yeah,
man. Like that, I see that a lot. The mentality of wanting to hang out with certain people, but I think that's something that's unfortunately, if people could um really, uh, as far as youth leaders go, I think that's one thing they need to shape within the youth, is getting past that point of being like, oh, this person, they're with the group but they're not with, you
yeah.
know they're in the group but they're not with the group. um
Discipleship needs to start in the youth group, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
yeah,
Uh, we need to disciple the ones who are Christians in the youth group, who are saved, to disciple the ones who are not saved. And that way, it gets rid of the clique attitude.
yeah, most definitely.
And
um Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't mind, we'll go into the speed question part. What I'll do is I'll ask you a question, and first thing that comes to your mind, you state it, and we'll keep going, rolling with it.
All right.
And this has become one of the, everyone loves this because it's a lot of fun, laughter, and we get into some serious stuff here sometimes. The most controversial question, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to warn you before I do. The first one is, what do you like to do to relax?
I don't relax a lot.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I I just kind of lately, just because I haven't been working, like I've been kind of relaxing, just been kind of watching TV and playing video games, but that's about it. But trying to take care of my family, it's a lot of work trying to take care of my son and making sure that everything's covered for
Yeah.
my family.
What is your favorite food?
I would say pizza, just
Pizza.
because you can modify it. I never get sick of pizza. I could
Awesome.
eat it night and day.
Awesome. Ford or Chevy?
Chevy.
Chevy. Okay. That is a big question in Alabama, to let you know. What is your favorite version of the Bible?
I don't have a favorite version. I do like King James, but I'm not King James onlyist type of thing. I like having a wide variety because you can get a very better view, So I like to pull out different versions just to kind of get a better grasp of
I
what's
feel you.
going on as far as language goes.
I feel you. I'm about the same way with King James. I love King James, but I'm not a King James onlyist. All right. The most controversial question I've ever asked on this podcast, and I have been told to shut up about this. I've had people happy about it. Pineapple pizza.
Absolutely. I love it. I
Yes.
have one of the best combinations. I can tell you what the best combination is later, and once you try it, it's gonna blow your mind.
Well, I'll tell you my favorite combination on it: jalapenos with the pineapple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What is your favorite Bible passage?
Matthew 6:25, I believe, is I prepared for that one.
Okay.
With God, it God has always been my provider. So the very fact that that scripture has always stood out to me, that if God can provide for the birds, he will always, how much more does your father love you? And he has always taken care of me, and he's always reminded me of that scripture every single time.
Okay, cool, cool. If the Bible disappeared today and you could only save 3 books out of the Bible, which 3 books would they be?
I would say Matthew, just because I need at least one of the gospels. Absolutely. And Job is another
Ooh.
one, just because God always, even through everything that Job went through, just the fact that he, still maintained, you know, through everybody telling him to curse God and die, and him like still praising God and everything. That just to me is just mind blowing. And I had kind of the third one's very hard to pick out. Um, I I honestly don't know um, what my third pick would be.
A lot of people pick one of the Paul's writings or something like that. One of the favorite ones is, when I ask this question, is usually one of the Gospels, something from the Old Testament, and usually Romans or one of Paul's epistles.
Romans is very good.
Uh, so, who is your favorite actor or musician?
I I think that Gary Oldman is very underrated. He, pulls off such a wide variety of, just whether it be villain or good guy, or, he can play pretty much about everything. And I love Chris Cornell as far as like music wise. His voice is just like amazing. To me, he's probably about one of the best vocalists, um, out there, and I absolutely love um, oh god darn it, it would between Chris Cornell and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan was just an amazing talent, and so between Stevie Ray Vaughan and Chris Cornell, I think it's kind of hard to pick between those two.
Okay, all right. What's your thoughts on the conflict going on Christian TikTok right now?
Is there anything specific or just in general?
And ju-
Uh,
just in general.
I always stay out of conflict. Anytime I see drama, I click away. I always, I'm like, oh, swipe, swipe. I don't need. There's enough drama in real life. I don't need to learn about drama. I don't care. Like, not. I don't want to sound callous, but I don't care about drama. I don't care about your beef between so and so and so and so. I don't care about that. I don't need to see drama. If I want to see drama, I would watch something on TV. I get, I don't
Wow.
need to.
All right, hey, I watch my kids. I got
Yeah.
4 kids. There's drama, trust me. So and so took this toy. That's TikTok too. What is your favorite genre of music?
Oh man, I love the blues. I mean, I
Ooh,
like everything, but blues is there's just something about the blues that um it just it's uh, so good.
I would have never
Yeah.
seen you as a blues person, but I can respect that. I like that.
And bluegrass. I love bluegrass.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
This is kind of controversial, but I think personally, bluegrass is superior to country music. Uh, just because I think it's a little bit more upbeat in the way that country has gone lately with modern country stars.
Hmm.
I love Johnny Cash and uh,
Johnny
Bo.
Cash more that grunge sound.
Yeah. So I like some of the older country artists, but I'm not a huge newer country. But I do think personally that bluegrass is a little bit better in the aspect that it's a little more punchy than than country music.
What is your favorite person for the Bible?
Well, like you you, you gotta. I think a lot of people would just say Jesus as a generic answer,
Oh
but
yes.
you know, you know,
Other than Jesus.
but like I love Job. Going back to Job, I mean, like
Job.
just absolute like role model, and that's really like when I was in the hospital, just thinking back to all the stuff that Job went through in his life, losing everything, his kids were killed, he lost everything and God gave it back to him tenfold, and he never once, you know, uh, uh, stopped praising God, and he never blamed God for, any of it, you know. And so just that aspect alone, just the faith on that man, just absolutely mind blowing. And I always wanted to have that aspect of of worship and being like, okay, right now stuff in my life might be, falling to pieces or whatnot, but I will still praise God because he's the creator of everything. He knows what's going on. So, that's probably my best answer right there.
Okay, I like Job. Job is a very. I've never heard no one use Job before. Can one person lose their salvation?
Well, that's one thing I think people have I think that's pretty much the wrong question. Um, because I, because I hear it all the time, right? Can you lose your salvation? But you gotta think a few things here. One of which is, I always ask, were they saved to begin with?
Thank you.
It's not that you can lose your salvation. Were you saved to begin with?
Thank you.
Because, Jesus said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, right?
Yes.
And, you know, that there's a lot of stuff we all stumble. And repentance is, you know, always good, and realizing and changing, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, as you grow in Christ, God's chiseling out things from your life and chiseling out the elephant, right? So that's what you really have to ask yourself, because I've seen a lot of people, right, go and say, like we've talked, even here, like people turning away because their faith was in man, right?
Exactly.
They had it misplaced in man. So the question isn't, can you lose your salvation? Once you have salvation, you're not going to turn away from Christ, right? So
Exactly.
the real question is, were you saved to begin with? You know, so because there are going to be plenty. There's and I can't remember what exact scripture it is, but he, Lord, Lord, haven't we prophesied in your name? Haven't we? There are people in the church, right, who are I hate to use this word, but posers. They want to appear holy, and that's in
Mm-hmm.
Revelations as well. There are people who want to appear holy. They want to appear a certain way, right? So are those people uh self-righteous, or are they going to Christ and knowing, you know, it's not, is it just a look, you know? Because God calls those people lawless.
Yes.
Are they leaving and making it habitual, making it a habit, and not like at all changing, not even making an attempt? There's like a difference between, man, like I messed up, and being like taking it for granted, God's grace, right? And being
Yes.
like, I'm safe, I don't need to change, right?
Yes.
So that's the real question, I think, that people need to ask themselves. So,
Or were they saved originally?
yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts thoughts on, is communion important?
I think it's absolutely important. I think it's our communion, very, very straightforward. It's right there. It's our communion with God, right? We are communing with God, with Jesus, right?
Exactly.
And so the very fact that it's right in the name communion, it is very important. Now, is it
Salvific.
salvific? I would say not so much, but it shows that you are communing with Jesus, that you are communing with God, and you're making sure that you are right with Christ, right?
I think Stephen put it the right way. It is not a salvific issue, it is a sanctification issue.
Hmm. Yeah, I would absolutely agree on that.
Okay, we're fixing to go to the last break, and when we come back, Edgar gets to share the gospel. Hey guys, guess what? Tonight, after Xtreme Talk at about 9:30, I'll be going live on TikTok for post Xtreme Talk. Hope to see you there.
Check out my new merch. Link in the bios.
Hey, and we're back here on the Stream Talk with Kyle St.Andrews and Edgar Friendly. So, Edgar, if you do not mind, would you like to share the gospel to my listeners?
Absolutely. You know, Jesus absolutely said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. This is very prevalent and very important for one very important reason, which is knowing the fact that it is through Jesus, through his sacrifice, that we can communicate directly to God. One thing you need to understand is in the Old Testament, when you look, they needed a priest. They needed to go to a priest and they needed to bring a sacrifice for their sins. Jesus brought himself, God in the flesh, and brought himself as a lamb to cover your sin, your debt. We all have a debt. Me, Kyle, everybody has a debt. And the one thing you have to ask yourself is who is going to pay that debt, right? Because the wages of sin is death. Death is the debt, right? Jesus already paid that. And you have to ask yourself, are you going to accept Jesus paying that debt for you, or are you going to pay it yourself? Now, we're all going to die. That's just pure fact. But as I said, it's already been paid by Jesus for us. And it's just a matter of us accepting that. The death, resurrection of Christ, and having that as a way for us to commune and be able to talk to God directly, not through a priest. If you understand how amazing that is, the very fact that we don't need to go to anybody but God directly, that's amazing. Your creator, every other religion in the world, man goes to God. Every other religion, we have to go to God, right? We cannot ascend to Mount Olympus, right? We cannot reach the gods. Gods, right, in every other religion don't care about humanity. They don't care about humanity. Look at every other religion, they don't care. In every other religion, you have them saying that it doesn't matter what you believe, right? Because there's many paths to God, right? Except that's not what Jesus said. This is what sets Christianity apart. This is what sets the true God of the universe apart. He came down in the flesh to commune with us, to have a relationship with us. Even if you were the only person in the world, he would have done it for you because he loves you. He cares about you. He is invested in who you are because he made you unique. Everybody is individual. We all have different roles. I am different than Kyle. I'm different than everybody else, and that's not a bad thing.
Nope.
Kyle's different than other people, and that's not a bad thing. Just like you are different than everybody else because you have a specific role, and we're not all going to be Billy Graham. We're not all going to be large scale, okay? Doing things that God and knowing that God places you certain places, knowing that you have a specific role to play. The very fact that, think about this, the person who brought Billy Graham to Christ, that person was important to God. Now, they don't get mentioned. They don't get mentioned by anybody, or at least very rarely, apart from somebody who wants to bring it up. But it's vital, right? So if you think you're insignificant, don't. Just because you may work at a fast food place or work at some place you don't think is significant, you're placed there. You are important because God knows you're important. He knows that you're supposed to be at a certain place. He knows that you are supposed to have a relationship with him so you can go through life understanding and knowing that you are significant because God has placed you in this world. I am never going to be, as far as I can see, I will never be, or may never be, like I said, reach the height of Billy Graham, but I could be the one who brings Billy Graham, the next Billy Graham.
Yes.
You are important in that when you have a relationship with Christ, you know that you are redeemed and he makes you worthy. You need to realize that nothing you do, nothing I do, can save us. Jesus did that for us so we can have a place with him, with God. And the last thing that I want to bring up is this. You're either going to be a person that wants to spend an eternity with God or not. If you don't want to be with God, God will. He knows that you don't want to be with him. If you don't want to spend an eternity with him, then that's the choices you have to make. You have to think about that. But if you do want to spend an eternity with God and know that you have a secure place in heaven with him, believe that Jesus came, died, was resurrected, and that he paid for your debt that we all incur.
Awesome. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you a chance to shout out any social medias of yours or any shows And also shout out anybody that is any of your friends you want them to follow.
Well, I have my backup account because my current TikTok is kind of on blast at the moment. So I don't know if TikTok's going to kick me or not. But This Too Will Die is my backup account. There's a really good show that's actually, you could probably stream it. It's called Grimm, and it's a really fun show to watch. There's about 6 seasons. My brother is probably going to be listening to this later at some point. So I want to shout out my brother. And of course, my loving wife. So I do have my podcast, um, the Edgar Friendly Show. Now there is two there's two podcasts, unfortunately. One guy is British, so if you if you find a British guy, that's obviously not me. But If you want to listen to the Edgar Friendly Show podcast, I hopefully maybe will be getting back to it soon. I've been on hiatus lately, so I do have plenty of episodes up though if you want to listen to that. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages, it is time to call it the night. Wish all the best. God bless. May God be with you. And thank you, Edgar, so much for gracing us with your presence on Xtreme Talk tonight.
thank you for having me on.
And as soon as I get a chance, we will be doing a post show, a post Xtreme Talk over on TikTok, talking about a little bit about this and a little bit about that and a little bit about the show. So come check us out over there on the live on TikTok. Soon tune back in, same as stream time, same as stream channel.